Hello, everyone. This is the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast about political commentary, a sprinkling of philosophy, organizing psychology, and revolutionary thinking. My name is Forias, and this is my co-host, MysterE. So, MysterE, how are you going today?
I am very well, 4IS. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm going pretty well.
Good.
And today, because look, with everything that's been going on with the Hasan drama, with his shocking his dog, or whether he has a dog collar, I like. Look, I'll be completely honest. I don't really care.
Yeah, I know,
But
right?
but I think it's
Like,
caused.
he wouldn't be the first person who's had an animal that shocked their pet in history, right? Like, the fact that
Yeah.
those things are on the market anyway kind of insinuates that people buy that stuff. So let's just say that was real. Like, that's actually available, and it obviously meets some type of animal welfare standard somewhere.
Yes, because like that's
I'm
the
just
huge,
saying.
yeah, like that does. Like, I guess that's the fallout of that situation is people are like, oh, somebody get in touch with Greenpeace and Peter, like he's torturing his dog. But like, I digress. I guess the reason why I brought this up to begin with
Yeah,
is
why?
well, it started a secondary conversation where it's like accountability culture and cancel culture. Is it actually that good, or is it people? Or does it give license for people to be dicks? And I thought it was a decent conversation. And I guess maybe the question for this podcast, like this one this week, is well, is accountability culture or cancel culture, is it a product of leftists and liberals? Like, I know we've talked about a lot recently how the culture wars, especially around gun culture and all of that, is very much the purview of, I guess, the alt-right or the right wing, if you will, if you want to use that terminology. But I feel like around that 2016 era, Gamergate, Pizzagate, all the gates,
All the gates.
all the gates in like around 2016 when I guess leftist YouTube was at its prime. Around the same time, it popped up I guess the Me Too movement and the start and the beginnings of, cancel culture, if you will. And I guess I want to posit is, is the leftists slash liberals the reason for the beginnings of cancel culture? And, before we can critique the culture wars in general, do we have to check ourselves, inverted commas?
No, I don't know. Like, cancel culture is around in many various forms. I think it's been coined as such as a dog whistle for certain people in the culture wars to be able to throw shade or have ammunition against their ideological opponents. So I think what you're explaining is the fact that the right wing or conservative thought leaders or thinkers have been able to say that because of the tendency of progressive ideas and the frenzy they whip up or whip themselves into in defending said progressive notions, that leads to this phenomenon where they cancel people and end up being the not so tolerant left. And they shut down conversations, or they shut down anyone who has an adverse opinion to theirs. And so, like, I think cancel culture has existed throughout human history. Let's be honest.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, whenever people have spoken in a way that has been deemed unacceptable by some group, then that group will seek to silence those people. And so the iteration that you're talking about since what, like the start of the 2020s, like the start of this decade, I think you're saying, right? You're saying that has been somehow attributed to the left. And
Yes.
so, like, the left, whatever the fuck that means, right?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
nebulous concept of the left that has been attributed to all forms of like unreasonably canceling people and stopping them from doing stuff, right? That's what you're talking about.
But I thought this was a good conversation to have, especially since we just ended our discussion with the horseshoe theory, because I guess that's the other aspect of this as well, is that, nebulous definitions of what people mean are thrown around as well. Like, what do people mean by the left here or the right here whenever they're discussing these sort of things? And okay, again, this is kind of me playing devil's advocate for the reason for posturing that question to begin with, is that I recently watched Stanzi's video on this, and
is this the one that you put in Discord?
Yeah, pretty much. And
yes, okay, I saw some of this. Okay, yep.
Yeah, and she's a comedian, and I feel like she's actually a pretty funny one, because
and she's a streamer too, I guess, right?
I think,
or just a YouTuber.
She mainly does shorts, and she does she's moved to long content, but she's
that was like a half an hour piece, wasn't it?
Yeah, but she's well known for her skits.
Okay, right, got it.
She does a lot of skits, but she kind of weighed into this because she was like, "Hey, I've noticed people are talking about this. I want to put in my two cents." And she goes through the entire spectrum of things of I guess the culture war and how I guess the cancel culture has been used for one side of politics to dunk on the other side of politics.
Yes.
And what halfway through, she does this metaphor, or at least she borrows this metaphor from another TikToker, if you will. And what's ended up with cancel culture is that somebody becomes the feast of the week, and it's almost as if you have a whale that dies and sinks to the bottom of the sea. And what ends up happening is a whole bunch of, I guess, content creators and drama channels, if you will, feast on whoever's corpse that is, and it ends up developing an ecosystem. And the retention and the likes and the people interacting and following every aspect of this drama of, hey, why did this drama happen? What are the circumstances around this? What do people on both sides think about this? It kind of creates its own ecosystem that becomes incredibly vapid, and it's just ends up being drama for drama's sake. And there are legitimately channels out there that exist on this type of drama and nothing else. And to be honest, just putting in my two cents, just looking at that metaphor, and then when you actually encounter these drama channels, it's so incredibly exhausting, because you'll have, let's say it's topic X, and it's usually streamers that I find that are into this kind of content, and there's hours upon hours of content on this, and then I remember the exact moment that I was watching a specific person's content on this, and I was like, I've done so much background just to get to the crux of what this whole situation was, and it's so myopic. Okay, somebody fucked up because of X, Y, and Z reasons. What does that have to do with the movement? What does that have to do with anything apart from getting maybe a sense of control? And Stanzi even says in her video that you've got the quote there that I've put up. People will say they want authenticity, but react like they want compliance. It's almost getting a sense of superiority, because you're like, this person fucked up because of X, Y, and Z reason, and aren't I a good person in comparison to them?
Yeah.
And I guess going back to I guess that slight anecdote I was saying is that I was watching that YouTuber, and I was like, I've forgotten why I care, and then I unsubscribed and never went back to that content ever again.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Like
and
it's not unusual, or this is not unimaginable in an environment where like humans are prone to drama.
yeah,
And now we have social media, and social media is literally by definition individuals now having access to a platform where they can promote literally whatever they feel like promoting, like within reason. It has to be
yeah,
kind of, safe for work or meet terms and conditions and community guidelines. But like ultimately, if they just want to talk about drama all day long, like they could literally just do that. Like from the moment they wake up in the morning to when they go to bed at night, they could press a button and just speak about drama, whatever drama is unfolding on the internet. And this is the kicker for us, and you know where I sit with this. We have an algorithm that is
yeah.
actually attuned to not only like what people say all the time is, like pushing hate and like amplifying an echo chamber, but like it looks for drama. And if something's trending and the trending is like, oh my God, Hasan Piker shocked his dog, wherever you sit on that spectrum of like disgust to ardent solidarity despite whatever this person has done, it gets amplified by an algorithm that is, unsatiably looking to keep eyeballs on a platform. And
Mm.
so the drama is the natural force or propellant or fuel that like just helps feed the algorithm and gets it to just keep people online. And like you said, like with the whale carcass analogy, it sinks to the bottom and all these bottom feeders like start crawling all over the carcass, strip it to the bone, and then off to the next whale carcass next week. And it's gone. Like, 2 weeks time, no one's going to be speaking about Hassan and his dog. It'll be
Yeah,
like it
yeah.
never happened, which is like the sentiment that I think that Stanzi's picking up on. But this is the social media ecosystem. And like as a content creator, and as you would understand this too, like as a content creator, like there is so many times where it's just like, well, look, everyone's talking about Hassan's dog, whether I have an actual valid opinion about this or not. Like maybe I should just talk about it for 10 minutes, clip it, and then put it up and it'll do really well in the algorithm. And
Mm.
so like if everyone's thinking that who's creating content is thinking that same thing. Like, look, I got to play the game. Like, I don't want to be the one left behind. And then everyone who's watching is like, oh my God, everyone's talking about this. I better be across it because I don't want to be left behind. Like, it takes either willful people to be like, no, I'm not clicking on that, or like willful content creators to be like, no, I'm not going to stoop to this low and do
Mm.
this. But like, which comes first for us? And like, people don't want to miss out on the train. And again, that's a human tendency. So I would say that the algorithm is actually very, very clever at understanding human tendencies and playing them like somebody who designs a poker machine to kind of appeal to people's baser psychological triggers and desires to get them to spend more money. The algorithm does the same thing to get people just to keep their eyeballs on the screen just for a second longer, if possible, just for a second longer. And this is the result that we're seeing. This is for like a material perspective. This is the result of that. And like, if people have to go down, their reputations are destroyed, their good names are besmirched, then like the algorithm doesn't care. And neither the executives on some company like, Amazon, Google, they
Mm.
don't really care. As long as they have, in a surveillance capitalist setting, they have the most eyeballs or the most attention in the attention economy.
Yeah, look, I should have anticipated, or I like maybe I was being a little myopic myself. Is that yeah? It's the algorithm, baby.
But like, it is a phenomenon. What you're
Yeah,
talking about,
it's
like humans
yeah,
do this, but now we are on social media and like, my argument about this. This could be not a thing. Like we could have like a system like, is it Mastodon or something like that? There is like open source or
yes.
peer-to-peer style social media platforms where it's like organic. It's not like
Mm.
ridiculous algorithm overkill where it literally is designed just to keep you addicted and online like some type of zombie. Like you could have, natural algorithmic impressions and like SOE and results out there. But that is not how these systems are designed. And because they're designed for profit. They're designed for profit.
Yes.
So you fucking put human drama and profit together. My God, what a deadly combination that is.
Yes, but I guess drama channels, if you will, and this sort of cancel culture, like it's I guess similar human behavior but packaged differently. Like for example, I guess free to air TV has been addicted to soap operas and like reality TV shows since the dawn of time.
Right.
And,
right. Well, like soap opera
that's
first,
been part of the zeitgeist for ages.
And then, soap opera, then reality TV. And like soap opera, you have to pay actors, you have to write scripts, you have to have a production team. Reality TV, hey, get a house, throw fucking 1,000 cameras in it, and then throw 20 strangers in there that are like young and like, full of hormones and shit. And like, you get great viewing. Like everyone wants to check out what's going on late at night in the afters. Like, it's like human natural curiosity to see what other humans are doing. And it's just trash. And it's like the only thing that can compete with like the level of trash that is AI slop is the drama slop that you're describing there. But again, in a world that is that is in a social media environment that is dictated by algorithms that are designed to suit advertising revenue, man, no hope for the human race on this one for us. And it's like what you're talking about, like cancel culture and like this weird accountability culture where like everyone's supposed to be perfect at all times and not have any mishaps, even if they're on like line, even if they're streaming for like 7 hours a day. They can't be like, "Oi, shut up," when their dog's like barking or something like that. Like they're the first human to ever have a relationship with a dog that like pisses them off for a second and be like, "Oi, what are you doing, you know?" Like kind of thing. Like that's just what it's like. Like, do these people not have pets? These accountability freaks out there? Like, have you never had a dog? And like, you would have to be such an incredible, you'd have to be like Jesus or something like that. And actually, you know what, Jesus gets pissed off, but like you'd have to be Jesus or like Mother Teresa and like not get angry at your dog. Like it's immediate regret most of the time, right? You're just like, "Oh, I'm sorry," like kind of thing. But like everyone's yelled at their dog before. Everyone's been like, "Shut up," like kind of thing when they bark or something. Like, and like they expect perfection of these people, which is what you're talking about. But then the contradiction or the paradox is that they also want authenticity from their parasocial relationships with these people. Like, what do you want, baby?
Well, that I guess maybe that was the other aspect of what Stanzi was saying in her video, is that like, yes, but the people who are pushing this are the terminally online people that very much have an unhealthy relationship with whoever's been accused. But then again, it's not like that sort of shit that hasn't happened before, because look, I know you probably don't know much about this, but my partner is very much into K-pop, and she was telling me the intricacies of I guess we're delving more into parasocial relationships here, but like the fandoms the fandoms of K-pop, they're usually so obsessed with the band members that it's just accepted that it's part of the culture that people obsess over the relationships that band members have with each other. And there's some fans that are like, no, this band member is shipped with another member, and if they have like a girlfriend, that girlfriend gets death threats and stuff like that. Like it's just an accepted part of the culture. And I guess that links us back to cancel culture, in the sense that a lot of these creators that end up getting cancelled, they get doxxed, they get death threats, they get everything that any sort of typical religion or any sort of person that has a reasonable a reasonable person would think like, hey, just don't be a dick. Like, why would you act like that?
So good. Yeah. It's the golden rule. It's just like, just don't be a douchebag. Like, you know, if you're invested in it and like you think you've got an opinion, you know, leave a comment, whatever. That's what social media is about. Share it with somebody else that should see it. And then, like, you know, get over it, move on. But the algorithm does love this stuff. Like, I've spoken to friendly Geordies about this phenomenon a lot. And, like, there are certain tactics. It's just like, look, this is trending. Like, don't hate the player, man. Hate the game. Like, if the algorithm is working on this, you can, and if you can somehow fit it into your content spree, and like the algorithm gives you a bump for it, that's what it wants. Unfortunately, you can't fight against that. Some people get to be conversation makers, though. There are certain people in the algorithm that have so much weight that, like, you know, they could fart in front of a camera and then, like, you know, 2 million people will watch it. And so, like, and then, like, what you're describing is the phenomenon. Then, like, 20 other sub-content creators will be like, oh, my God, he just farted on a camera. And they'll talk about it for, like, half an hour and analyze it. And then everyone wants to know what the opinion is. And then, like, another subcategory beneath that of, like, you know, an army of, like, 200 content creators will all talk about the half an hour of analysis of the fart in their subcultures and niche groups. And then it just, like, proliferates through there. So, like, that is just the ecosystem itself, which just feeds
the algorithm.
That is
all
the
I was
algorithm.
going to say is the algorithm pyramid. The algorithm pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that, and like it's a very much a neoliberal style of trickle down economics. And like at the bottom, like there's people scraping to try and feed off it. But like at the top, that's where all the action is. And that is what is set to be trending. But as we described before, the phenomenon will be over in like a week's time, 2 weeks tops, done. Like look at Charlie Kirk. Like he died like a month ago. And like that was sensational. That was sensational.
Yeah.
Like people wanted Tyler Robinson's head on a pike. I haven't heard anyone mention Tyler Robinson in a while now. That was all the rage. And look at that. Like, you want to talk about cancel culture? Like, look at the reaction that came out of the Charlie Kirk situation. If there were people online that were saying bad things about Charlie Kirk afterwards, they were getting doxxed. There was a website that Jag referred us to, which was like a website just where you could name and shame people that didn't say nice things about Charlie Kirk. Like, didn't say they were like attacking him, but they just didn't say like, oh my God, like let's just speak about how amazing he is. And they were getting doxxed left, right, and center. And there was like a hit list of the doxing. So that's a form of cancel culture, if you ask me. Like retribution for the sake of retribution and just going after people if you don't like what they're saying and like attacking them. That's a form of cancel culture, if you ask me. And like that's as prolific now on the right as it is on the left. Can I just say? Just put it out there.
But I guess more to but I guess more to the point is that originally I was like, oh wait, so is this a left or a leftist / liberal phenomenon that's just proliferated? But then you've raised the very good point is that well, it's just gossip, and gossip's been around since the dawn of time.
Yeah, so, I think it's that. It's a manifestation of gossip and drama.
And yes, and if we take that premise, if you will, then if say it started with something like the modern version of it started with something like the Me Too movement, and now it's divulged into a doxing website of people who were slightly mean to Charlie Kirk after he died.
Yeah,
then I guess it's both sides. Like if both sides are doing it, then it's just gossip.
Well, it is, and this is the product of that type of environment. People will, like you said, they take it upon themselves because they feel like it gives them, and I think Stanzi points this out well, they feel like they have power in this situation.
Yes.
Like if you're just sitting at home, yelling at the TV kind of thing, and you throw the remote at the television, like that's it. But social media is interactive. And if you have parasocial relationships with people, you don't have to have good parasocial relationships with people. I'm pretty sure back when I used to make just videos on demand as opposed to streaming, like there were a lot of people that hate followed me. They subscribed because they didn't like what I was saying. And like when I put videos out, they wanted to comment and tell me why I was wrong. And so like the parasocial relationships don't just extend into the realm of like, oh my God, I love this person until they did the wrong thing. Like some people are just waiting for you to say something so they can attack you. And so like there is also that form. And these are the types of people that they feel because they can interact in a social media environment. They can comment on your stuff and they can bring other people to boo you down and be like, "Burn him," like kind of thing, like a witch hunt. Like there, people get power from that situation. And like, you know, if they're living quite a detached, alienated existence in a 21st century context where like a lot of their actual social relations to other human beings have been broken down or reduced to simply market relations where they just go to work and the only people they interact with maybe if they go shopping, they might not even do that anymore. Maybe they get their groceries delivered to their house. Maybe they get all their food through Uber Eats. You know, like maybe they don't even really interact with like people on a meaningful level. Like they might have some friends, but maybe they only see their friends online. Maybe they just play games with them or something like that online. Maybe they're not even interacting with humans really anymore. Like these types of bonds that people have in a parasocial relationship or across the digital landscape, which is controlled by the techno-feudalists, can I just say, as a quick side there, like this is where they feel power. These are their communities now, and this is where they can, you know, flex. This is where they can flex a bit and like kind of be like, yeah, I got you, baby. And like they'll sleep a little bit better at night after doing that. But like, you know, this is the world we're going into. And we've seen some crazy stuff already talked about by people like, you know, Mark Zuckerberg in relation to, and we've discussed like AI friends and stuff. Like, yeah, people might have an average of 3 friends each, but they want more meaningful relationships than that, but they can't get it in this day and age. AI will be there to do it for you. You know, look for a digital alternative to all this sort of stuff. And if this stuff gives them a sense of power, like I think everyone's witnessed like a really vile and almost seemingly never-ending comments war on some piece of content before, where like 2 people just go at it, and it seems like for days they're just commenting back and forth, kind of thing, attacking each other because it gives them some sense of power. And like it probably feels good. Like it feels like they're getting some attention. Some people might like their posts. That people might try to get in on the conversation. Like all of this stuff. I think Stanzi's got a good point. It makes people feel empowered in a world where they're completely alienated from everything else. It's a scary phenomenon, to be honest, for us. This is where we're going in the 21st century.
Yeah. Yes, but also cancel culture has developed into an arm of the culture war as well, right? Because I guess once you have this sort of drama, this sort of gossip, you have the people that are against whatever issue has happened, and then you have the people that defend that person. And then I guess where the layer comes from, knowing Hasan, is, well, he's a very prominent leftist. So I'm sure the people that are therefore dunking on him may not like his politics, and then the people that are protecting him are the people that are maybe leftists or maybe even liberals who like him. And then you go back and forth, you know, great for the drama channels that get the algo bump base of him, but then it devolves into a massive mess.
But like, isn't that ironic though? And like the contradictions of the culture wars are so strong that it is, okay, like let's just generalize here as you have. The people that would be opposed to Hasan are probably right-wing people. And these are the same people that all of a sudden are animal rights activists. What the fuck? Like these are the people that would laugh at Greta Thunberg and spit on her if they got a chance. But like all of a sudden they care about whether a dog gets zapped. Like, what world are we living in? The culture wars are completely meaningless. It's just literally about, okay, you're from the other side, whatever that is, and like, if I'll just pick up a contrary position to you on whatever matter it is. Like, again, these are the same people that would laugh about environmentalism and or like some type of conservationist attitude towards things, But like, oh my god, he zapped his
I
dog.
I would critique your Greta Thunberg one though. I would
Hmm.
be they would if they got the chance they would spit on Greta for her environmentalism, but then on the weekend go out to the Rockies and like the nice fresh air and be like, oh, isn't nature so wonderful?
Yeah, yeah,
And this
yeah,
is going to
yeah,
be around for ages. Ages. There's no such thing as climate change.
yeah, yeah.
That's probably
Or go hunting or fishing on the weekend and get upset if they didn't catch anything. You know, be like, hey man, this place isn't what it
yeah.
used to be. Like, you know what I mean? So like, it's just
Yes.
it's the culture wars, cancel culture, identity politics, because it's ideological, purely ideological.
Mm.
It is
Yeah.
riddled with unresolvable contradictions. They just like make people feel stupid
Yes.
because it's so tribal. And like, all's fair. All's fair, and people just get into it. Like, it really doesn't make sense that the type of people that hate Hasan, you know, would be the type of people that want to stand up for his dog and like call him out
Yeah,
for animal cruelty. That it really doesn't make sense, you know?
but I think almost to the point where the most sensible thing, like let's go back to the Charlie Kirk thing, and therefore what's come out of that is more discussions about the Second Amendment. Like I think the best case scenario in that instance is, well, okay, it's part of America's Second Amendment. Look, you can make fun of them even if at the end of the day they just say, hey, Second Amendment, it's part of my rights and I like guns. And it's like, okay, agree to disagree. And then you just leave it there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there's no amount of me saying regulation that's going to prove a gun loving NRA member that they should give up their guns. And there's no amount of them saying how much, I don't know, they need they protect society and guns are great for the community is going to say to a leftist that, are you justifying all the kids dying in
yeah,
schools? Like,
yeah.
the whole point of the culture war is to make people argue more and more and more. And like, that's the $1 million question we have in front of us. How do you stop the culture wars? Because
Mm.
they're deliberately designed to make people argue with each other.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think you can stop the culture wars. I think that people definitely take up personalized positions on certain matters. Now, the idea of, like,
Mm.
let's reduce it to identity politics. The idea of identity politics is an expression of what you identify with or as, which is a
Mm.
subjective experience. Like, just like for complete argument's sake, like I could identify as a woman. I could identify as being Mongolian. Now, whether or not you believe my position there, whether you think I am Mongolian or whether you think I am a woman, is your subjective reality. And I have my own subjective reality on that too. I have ideas as to whether or not that is actually a fact. And, you could reduce that down to its material position. And you could argue that based on our scientific and objective understanding of reality at this point in time, based on academic research and, like common sense thinking, that like in both cases, you could argue that I am neither one of those things. And so like you can have an objective position on that, or you can enjoy the purely subjective version of that, which is like, well, he identifies with those two things, so let him. Or you can be like, well, I can see with my own eyes, or I feel subjectively, I feel in my opinion
Mm.
is that those identities don't suit that person. And like you can take up either position on that, and there's a spectrum of things that you could do in between there as well. And so like this territory, the culture wars,
Mm.
which comes down to or crosses over nicely with identity politics, is how people choose to relate to a certain situation. It's fucking relative. That's what I am trying to get at here. It's all completely relative. Now, I think what is important to recognize, though, in I get to say it every podcast, in a capitalistic economy, like in the type of mode of production that we have based on capitalism, I think it is much easier to control the vast majority of people out there that don't really have economic and thus political power. They don't have control over the economy and over the way that society develops. It's much easier to control the broad masses and keep them subdued by promoting culture war issues and saying, hey, all of this stuff is subjective. All of this stuff is really relative. All of these kind of issues on things like, abortion or like, I don't know, equality or like race, like all of these social constructs at the end of the day, all of these kind of, they can't to press down and categorize matters, which are really, they do take individual positions at some point. Like everyone has a valid opinion on a lot of these issues. If you can boil things down to a culture war and say that, oh, well, everyone on the left has to take this side and everyone on the right takes this side, and then there's like kind of a spectrum in between that, divide and conquer, baby, every day of the week. If you can really get the large majority of people out there to take culture war issues like tribal lines on particular matters, it's a very good way of controlling a population, or at least not controlling them, but at least keeping them divided enough so they don't get together and question anything else, if you know what I mean, for IS, as long as they're fighting each other. And so I don't think you can resolve the culture wars if it is purely an individual identity problem, if that makes sense. I don't think you'll ever resolve that.
No. Yes, and because that I guess that's the reason what the culture wars is really good at, is that it changes everything into a left and a right issue when Marx said it itself. It's an up and down issue.
I would say that as well. That's the main focus. Like there really is some more simple and material distinctions in the population, in the human race. And the material distinction that, someone of the Marxian tradition would take is, there are some clear distinctions in society, but it's not left and right on this cultural issue. It's actually up and down. There's a material or an economic distinction between people in society. There are, to use the kind of bastardized idea of an explanation, there's the haves and the have-nots. Now, I think that is way too simplified. I think there are people that control the economy, and so they have a vested interest in making sure they maintain their control of the economy, especially through ownership of things like the means of production. So owning productive land, businesses, buildings, resources, machinery, technology, owning these things that, that means that they have control, and a say in economics, and everybody else that kind of just creates value in that system, but doesn't really have any ownership of what to do with that, all of the value that is being created in the economy. I think that is the real distinction that that doesn't require any kind of, how do you feel about this issue? You can feel good about that. You can be a working class person, someone that has absolutely no say in the economy or control over anything, and you can be quite happy with that system. You can be there's a group of people that are really in control, and they really make the shots, and they control the entire economy and control me like I'm some type of a serf. But I'm fine with that, because maybe they're just better people than me. That's why they're there. Maybe that's why they control everything, because they're just better humans. And so that's relative for you, but materially, there's a distinction. They have stuff, or they control things, like means of production, and you don't. And so there's a distinction between a large group of people and a smaller, a very small, some would argue, minority of people that are actually in control of the economy. And so the culture wars are still a thing, because everybody can take a relative position. Everyone can take their own personal, they can identify as whatever they want. on any issue that comes up in society that is politicized. And so, like, I don't think you'll ever get rid of the culture wars, but what you can do for AS, and I think this is what, something like the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast is all about, is like we can reframe, or we should, if not reframe this discussion, but at least highlight things like, let's not get too focused on the culture wars. Let's focus on this instead.
Yes.
And like that, I think that's as good as you're going to get it, because the culture wars ain't going nowhere. And especially in a world like we explained before, that's reigned or dictated to us by algorithms for profit.
Well, let's talk about the recent scenarios that we've encountered. Like, I guess what's happened, with the genocide in Palestine, and also even with the March of Australia stuff that you went to, when they were talking about immigration, and something that was very culture war-esque. Like, I going off the top of my head using generalizations, I think culture war-esque in immigration is that I think a more left perspective would be like, yeah, but you got to get your specialists from somewhere, and like, immigration is important for a society to work, because you need the specialists. And then I don't know, I guess a more right wing one would have been no, we can do everything here, et cetera, et cetera. But like when you that's very broad strokes. But when you actually went there, people actually were like, "Hey, we're not against migration." Sure, there were certain dog whistles that they listened to, that spoke to them in the culture war, but they were like, "Hey, we're not dickheads." Like, obviously, we know that Jeff's the son of a migrant, and like, hey, we want, if you've come here, we welcome you, but economic conditions, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the proper, we're living in a cost of living crisis, we're living in a housing crisis. Can we really afford all of these extra people there? Like, that was material conditions. Like, it was something that is worth discussing. But of course, culture war-esque, the media did a good job to paint the rally as racist, sexist, every ists you can think of. We now can't probably have that discussion.
Yes, we can't have that discussion. Now, that's exactly what happened. The mainstream media really painted that as they were just like rallies against immigration, and they call it the racist rallies and all this sort of stuff. And don't get me wrong, there were elements in there. There were neo-Nazis there where I was, and they were happy to be there. They were reveling in that. But like all of the people I spoke to, I was like, why are you here? And like all of them, I'm pretty sure 4AS gave the disclaimer as like, look, I'm not against immigration. Like, I'm pretty sure all of them did. And then they followed it up by not talking about culture war standpoints, just like, well, there's too many Indians here, or there's too many of the Chineses here, or like all that sort of stuff that you expect from the culture wars. Like, if you were listening if you were being a good culture warrior beforehand, and like what you would have expected from the March for Australia rallies would have just been like, yeah, they're all racists, they're all right-wing, hard right psychos that are going to turn up to this. And like after the I'm not against immigration disclaimer, all that they described was there's not enough infrastructure. We can't afford housing. I don't know if my kids are going to be able to have kids and live in the same area as me. I don't know where people are going to go to school. Yeah. Like, these were all legitimate concerns about governance.
Yeah.
Like, governance concerns and issues about, like their economic standing and their opportunities. These were all legitimate economic related concerns. And so, like, if you just took the culture war script on that one or the culture war pill on that one, you would just dismissed all of these people as being outlandish racists. And like, honestly, I know, and like, let's not discount the fact that these people were probably trying to look as good as possible because I was filming them and they wanted to be on their best behavior.
Yes.
But like, they still just brought up issues that were related to their economic circumstances. They just don't think that they're getting a fair shake of the sauce bottle when it comes to the redistribution of wealth in this society. They pay their taxes. We're a wealthy nation, and they feel like there's not enough services for them and there's not enough opportunities. That is a tale as old as industrial society itself for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but also the power of the media and the power of framing, right? Because what everyone will remember from the rally is, what was it, Alex Elkis or
Adam
whatever the
Eltis.
head neo-Nazi guy?
Adam Eltis.
Adam Eltis.
Yeah.
I always get his name wrong.
Yeah.
Adam Eltis saying, of course I'm a fucking racist, and then repeating that.
Yeah, like they literally chased him down to get that out of him.
Yeah. Yes, and then what people don't see, which is what you recorded, is the neo-Nazis thinking they could go up and spew their white policy and everyone booing them.
Yeah, that was actually really interesting.
Yeah. Everyone telling them to get lost. They didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Including the young guy that you talked to afterwards, and he was like, "Oh yeah, they were just talking about white policy. Nobody wants to hear that shit." And nobody understands that. That's why everyone was booing them. But again, I digress. People see the former and they don't see the latter.
Yeah,
and that all feeds into the culture war, because as far as I guess maybe your more liberal or leftist minded people, they're like, okay, of course it was a racist rally because they're what the people that the media are framing as the head of everything has said that he's a racist and wants white Australia back. We're justified in what we believe, and then I guess the people who attended the rally are going to, I don't know, maybe double down on their more questionable, the more questionable talking points surrounding it, even though there are material conditions, feeding into their concerns. They're going to double down on the more questionable stuff because the media and everyone else has turned on them when there could have been a reasonable discussion.
Yes. I feel like there's certain people that are more radicalized and then will go down like more of a hardcore and extremist route if they feel like they're not being listened to about their actual economic concerns. Like a lot of these people would have been pretty offended just to be classed as racists because they want more schools and hospitals and opportunities for their kids. Like I don't even think that's a cultural thing. Like I think all humans that live in an advanced industrial society, maybe not in prior societies, like an advanced industrial society that's based on market conditions, expect those things to be provided for their kids. They want opportunities for them. It's not like we are hunter-gatherers anymore, or we live on the land, and like if we need opportunity or we need more food because we've got more mouths to feed, then we just grow more crops. Like people don't really have that option anymore. Or like we just chop down some trees in the forest and build another log cabin. Like that's not a thing anymore for us. And so like in an advanced industrial society where you have like a market that dictates things, it really does come down to economic issues and concerns. And so these people would be like, fuck, they're not listening to my problems and they're just calling me a racist. Well, then I'm going to be a fucking racist then. Or like, I'm just going to double down on these people because, that Adam Eltis, that neo-Nazi, well, at least he's here. And like, he seems to be, at least, I guess, listening to some of my concerns. Maybe I'll just become a neo-Nazi then. And so like, it's really unfortunate that the culture wars, and this was, in this regard, was peddled by the mainstream media, would radicalize these people and turn them towards the thing that the media is fear-mongering against. It's a vicious cycle 4IS, the culture war
Mm.
stuff. And it really is divisive. It's so
Mm.
divisive. It's so unfortunately divisive. Just having us, having us all Pavlovian response trained to, as soon as we hear someone that's not in our tribe or our echo chamber, to be like, huh, racist, or like, huh, dirty commie, or something like that. You're like, stupid hippies, or like, I don't know, something like of that ilk, that reaction, and then just completely dismiss all of their other concerns because there's like a couple of things that you really can't agree with them on.
Well, yeah, okay. Thank you for prompting, because I guess maybe this we're going full circle, because cancel culture, cancel culture, the culture wars. It all goes down because, as you say, it's a Pavlovian response to purity test. Because, like, I guess that's the other that's the other bad thing, I guess, about the internet is, I think, by way of you going into, you're debating people in the comments, or you interacting with other people in the comments, is that you're almost incentivized to take a more extreme stance that you than you normally would. Like for example, yeah, like let's talk about like what we were saying before about immigration. Like you mightn't actually think, as a leftist or a liberal, you mightn't even think that, you might think a similar thing to maybe the right winger in that scenario, where it's like, hey, well, we probably are doing a lot more immigration than we should. Well, maybe we should cut back things. But then, as soon as you're thrown into that example where you're debating something in the comments, suddenly you're thrown into an extreme position where you're like, no, all immigration is great, and they're thrown into a scenario where they say, no, all immigration is bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just in the act of you debating someone that you take more extreme views of what you actually think. It's just you are so dialed into owning the other person, whether that's owning the conservative or owning the lib, that you've completely lost sight of what you actually think, what they actually think, and what the truth of the matter is.
Yes, I think the truth gets lost, and it is legitimately, and like in the actual use of the word, it is polarizing. Like, as in, like when it comes to the polarizing effect, when it comes to magnetic fields, like you either drift to one pole or the other. You don't meet in the middle, kind of thing. Like, it's just everything gets pushed to the edges, as you're saying, and like the forces push against one another, and like you can't just sit in an understanding position and try to take into consideration what the other. You're forced to the extremities on that issue. Like you said, like, all right, if I'm going to enter into this realm of debate now, in the culture wars, then I must take the most extreme position to prove my point and make sure I'm right. And so like you give yourself away, or you deny yourself any opportunity to consider any nuance in that situation. You're like, no, it must be right on all grounds, kind of thing. And like, again, I really just think that only serves one group's interests, and it's not the large and overwhelming majority of people out there. It's a small group of like economic elites that really get to say what happens in the broad economy and broadly politically. And so they get to keep doing it. And I'm not saying that they're all like, holding hands under the rainbow. Like, they have their differences too, and they grapple within the class and have their own culture wars. But like, they do it, on a super yacht in the Mediterranean somewhere, and are laughing at us, the large unmanageable group. It is difficult when you're a larger group. They definitely find solidarity when they need to make sure that we are all divided and working against our own class interests, and they will fight to maintain their own class interests. And once that's safe, then they squabble amongst themselves. Don't get me wrong. And they have, like I said, their own culture war issues, but they will show solidarity to make sure they maintain the power that comes with their class. And the
Mm.
only real remedy, to answer your question from a while ago, actually, the only real remedy of our culture wars is to move and focus, yes, on the class struggle instead. And like
Mm.
shift the focus to that, because if we can change the economic mode to something else that's more socialized, that is kind of geared towards looking after the larger majority of people out there, as opposed to focusing the intentions of the economy on a smaller group of people, then we might transcend the current culture wars into a new culture war. But like maybe it'll be a nicer culture war, or like something that like, you know, is more palatable, not palatable, more more, not even more desirable, like something that we can traverse a little bit easier than the current culture war, which is just divisive for the sake of being divisive and tribal as hell, which gets us, unfortunately, nowhere.
Yes. Well, with that, I feel like that was a pretty good sentiment to end the podcast on. And of course, the very last segment, as always, what's that Senpai of art? So, what is your, what do you reckon the prompt was? Mystery.
I wanted to go with kind of a witch hunt and like some type of purifying fire or something like that. So like, yeah, there's some purity that comes with burning stuff, right? And cleansing the land. So I'm going to go with a purifying witch burning. Let's go with that.
The prompt for this is cancer culture and the purity test of and how it devolves into a witch hunt in society.
Okay. I was kind of halfway on that one. Halfway there.
Yes. That was pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember to keep thinking and keep learning. And to sign us off, I'll give it to you, MysterE.
Thank you very much, 4AS. And to all of you out there, please remember, I am, you are, we are a MysterE.